Amazing connection revealed, how a black maid's Japanese philosophy transformed a millionaire's life forever. Sarah finished dusting the grand piano in the Harrington mansion, her heart heavy but hopeful. Each flick of her wrist spoke of hard work, dedication, and the love she poured into her job and her children, Destiny and Jamal, who were waiting for her at home. Living in a modest apartment in Atlanta, Sarah dreamed of a better life for them. Each day in the mansion, surrounded by wealth and success, made her painfully aware of the gap that lay between their lives and the opulence she cleaned around. Michael Harrington, fresh into his millionaire status, roamed the halls like a ghost. Wealth had built walls, isolating him from his roots and leaving him yearning for connection. One day, news shattered the fragile veneer of Michael's success. His estranged father had passed away. The headlines blared with sensationalism, but it was the hollow ache in his chest that truly consumed him. Loneliness flooded his life like a storm. Sarah noticed the change in his demeanor and, without hesitation, reached out. She approached him after work, her voice gentle yet firm. "You know, I once lost someone too. It's tough, but we find a way through the darkness." Her words cracked through Michael's composed exterior, revealing layers of sorrow he had buried way too deep. Their late-night conversations turned into a lifeline, a way for both to share their dreams and fears. Sarah spoke of her sacrifices, the endless juggling of her job and motherhood, and for the first time, Michael felt understood by someone outside of his elite world. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As they began to explore each other's worlds, Sarah invited Michael to a cultural festival in her neighborhood. The vibrant colors and sounds filled the air, and with each unique display, he learned the deeply rooted Japanese philosophies of teamwork and respect. "Here, we're all in this together," she told him, eyes shining with passion. It ignited something in him, a rebellion against the competitive nature he was raised to embrace. Those moments bonding over shared laughter and deep conversations illuminated a new path for both of them, but with newfound connection came resistance from Michael's wealthy friends. They scoffed at the idea of mingling with someone from a different world, questioning why he'd lower himself to those levels. Michael found himself questioning everything: wealth, status, even his friendship with Sarah. Just as he began to ponder real relationships, news broke about his past, painting him as ethically dubious. The city turned its back, and the people who once admired him now whispered behind his back, casting glittering shadows over his crumbling fate. In the eye of this storm, he clung tightly to Sarah's unwavering support. But during a late-night heart-to-heart, tension crackled in the air. "Michael," she pressed, "what does it mean to truly rise above? What price do you pay for the American dream?" Her challenge hung between them, a question begging for authenticity as silence fell heavily around. His heart pounded at her words, and uncertainty swept through him like a tide. Would he turn away from the one person who showed him that true worth isn't measured by a bank account or social status? The weight of their friendship lay heavy in the air, leaving an intoxicating sense of urgency. What would he choose? Michael stared at Sarah, his heart pounding as he grappled with the enormity of her question. He could feel the weight of her gaze, piercing through the chaos of his internal struggle. In that moment, everything around them faded, the luxurious decor of the mansion, the echoes of laughter from his rich friends, it all dissolved into the background. "What price?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I don't even know if I'm paying, or if it's just me losing everything I thought I wanted." Sarah leaned in closer, her warmth offering comfort amid the chill of doubt that clung to him. "Maybe what you call losing is really just shedding. Shedding the layers that don't belong to you. Finding your truth beneath it all." Her words dripped with wisdom, igniting a flicker of hope in Michael. He hadn't realized how much he craved this sort of authenticity. The world he occupied was filled with superficial accolades, interactions masked by polite whispers. But Sarah, she was raw and unfiltered, and it called to something deep inside him that he thought had withered away. "I don't want to lose you, Sarah," he admitted, his voice laced with sincerity. "Everything feels so chaotic right now. I know they say time heals, but I'm not sure how much healing I have left to do." Sarah offered a small smile, one that reached her eyes and sparked warmth in the air around them. "You're not alone in this. We'll navigate it together. You're more than what they think, Michael. Remember that." As they spoke late into the night, their bond deepened, creating a patchwork of shared dreams and fears. They laughed, cried, and challenged one another, weaving a tenderness into the fabric of their friendship. Yet among the moments of solace, an invisible thread of fear began to weave through Michael's thoughts. Could he truly disentangle himself from a life that weighed him down, especially when the weight was reinforced by privilege? The following day, Michael woke with a sense of restlessness. The images of his past, the lavish parties and superficial conversations, flashed before his eyes. They felt like ghostly reminders of who he used to be. He glanced at his phone, a fresh notification from the news app appearing with a headline that sent a shiver down his spine: "Millionaire falls from grace after scandal." He felt sick. Just when he thought he was turning a corner, the world outside threatened to pull him back into the depths. The whispers would only grow louder, and he questioned how Sarah would handle the repercussions of being associated with him. But immediately, Michelle's voice echoed in his mind, urging him to rise above. With determination, he drove to the city park, where the cultural festival had been held. Maybe here, among the vibrant colors and sounds, he could find clarity. As he stepped onto the lush grass, he was greeted by familiar faces. Families danced, laughter filled the air, and a sense of community wrapped around him like a warm blanket. Just then, he spotted Sarah teaching a group of children about the Japanese tea ceremony, her presence radiating joy and peace. The sight struck him hard. She was real, she was genuine, embracing life in ways he had yet to understand, but his heart tightened as a familiar face approached one of his wealthy friends, Marcus, wearing a mask of feigned friendliness. "Michael," he smiled, thinly veiling his disdain, "so nice to see you out here with your new friends." The emphasis on new stung sharply. Michael felt the blood rush to his cheeks, a mix of anger and embarrassment. Just when he thought he could stand tall, it suddenly became harder to breathe. No matter how far he got, there always seemed to be a reminder of the judgment looming over him. As his gaze drifted back to Sarah, he saw her laughing with the children, unfazed by the world's judgment. For a heartbeat, he longed to run to her, to embrace that sense of belonging she so easily created, but could he escape the weight of judgment? Could he truly align himself with Sarah without tearing apart the fragile threads of acceptance he clung to? A storm brewed inside him, and the question hung heavy in the air. As parts of his old life tangled with his new emerging identity, he realized he stood at a crossroads. Would he choose to embrace the genuine connections he found or retreat back into the shadows of his former self? And as he breathed heavy, uncertainty murmured through him. What would he risk for the truth? Michael stood frozen, Marcus's words echoing in his head like a haunting melody that refused to fade. New friends. That phrase felt like a weight pressing down on his chest, suffocating him. He glanced back at Sarah, who remained blissfully unaware of the heaviness in his heart, focused on the children's eager faces and their wide-eyed curiosity. That he wanted to shout, to defend himself, to tell Marcus that this laughter, this genuine connection was worth more than any gala he had ever attended. But instead, he stood silently, a storm brewing within. Why did the opinions of a gilded world still hold so much power over him? "Are you going to stand there all day?" Marcus's mocking tone cut through the chaos around him. Maybe it's time to cut ties, Michael thought, as anger bubbled beneath the surface. The remnants of his elite life felt like anchors keeping him submerged. Michael shifted his weight, determination flickering inside him. If he let Marcus's words get to him, he'd stay trapped in that gilded cage forever. In that moment, Michael looked towards the children gathered around Sarah. They were learning, exploring, and thriving in their innocence. There was a magic there, a purity, that evoked something deep within him. "Sarah!" he called out, finding his voice despite the roaring waves of doubt. Her gaze shifted, a smile breaking out as she caught sight of him. The warmth of it made his heart race in a different way. "Michael! Come join us." She motioned, her invitation a lifeline in the tempest of his emotions. A flicker of hope surged through him. He could either allow himself to be swept under by judgment and expectations or take a step into the light of honest connection. With each step towards her, something in him felt lighter. As he reached her side, the children welcomed him with delighted cheers. "Michael will help us," Sarah declared, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. The children gathered around him, their laughter wrapping around him like a balm. Slowly, he melted into the moment, allowing himself to forget the harsh whispers of his past, if only for a while. "Do you want to learn how to make tea?" Sarah asked, a teasing glint in her eyes. She gestured to the ornate set that sat on a nearby table. "Absolutely," he replied, the words spilling out before his brain could shoot them down. In that instant, adventure replaced anxiety, and his heart started to beat in rhythm with everyone around him. As they worked together, Michael found himself drawn closer to Sarah, their hands brushing as they passed delicate tools back and forth. Something shifted between them. Each laugh, each shared glance, ignited a connection that circulated like energy, but just as he began to lose himself in the authenticity of the moment, his phone buzzed again, snapping him back to reality. He reluctantly glanced at the screen. A notification from a news alert. "Scandal deepens, millions in jeopardy." His stomach turned, the laughter of the children fading into the background. Would this be another reminder of his past? Would Marcus's disdain turn to pity? The questions loomed large again, pulling him down. Michael looked around, the faces of the children were unchanged, filled with joy and expectation. But reality lurked, a shadow ready to disrupt everything. "Michael, are you okay?" Sarah's concerned voice grounded him in the present. He met her gaze, that steadfast look that seemed to see right through the layers he tried so hard to shed. "Just thinking," he said, swallowing hard. "About what?" She probed, her curiosity genuine. "About everything," he hesitated, the weight of his thoughts tangible. Just then, Marcus cleared his throat loudly nearby, his smirk evident. "Don't you have better places to be, Michael?" In that moment, the choice lay before him: flee to the safe shadows, or confront what was ahead with the courage he had only begun to embrace. Would he allow the judgment of others to dictate his life, or would he make a stand forged in authenticity and connection? He inhaled deeply, determination washing over him. "This is worth fighting for," he thought. But as he looked into Sarah's eyes, filled with kindness and strength, he still couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was just beginning. And just like that, he knew in his heart, whatever he chose next, his world would never be the same. The storm was far from over, it only felt like the calm before a wave. Would he ride it, or would it bury him? The choice lingered, heavy and undeniable. Michael's gut nodded as he processed Marcus's jibe. The laughter of the children no longer felt like a soothing balm, it became a bittersweet symphony that underscored his internal struggle. He stole another glance at Sarah, who was now knelt before the kids, teaching them how to pour hot water over tea leaves. Her passion radiated like the sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating everything around her. "Is this truly who you want to be?" The voice in his head questioned again, relentless. "Michael." A child called from the small gathering. "Can you show me how to hold the teapot?" The innocent plea pierced through his turmoil, pulling him back to the present. He exhaled, calming himself, and reached for the teapot. As he joined the circle of eager faces, the weight on his chest began to lift just a little. "Here," he said, demonstrating the proper grip. Laughter erupted when the child exaggeratedly attempted to mimic his stance, her tiny fingers clumsily forming around the silver handle. "Like this." Michael laughed, and in that moment, he felt a piece of himself re-emerge, a piece untainted by wealth, judgment, or expectations. The child's bright smile ignited something buoyant in him, a thread of joy in an otherwise tumultuous sea of doubt. "Good job!" Sarah cheered, clearly amused. "You've got a future in tea pouring." The children erupted in applause, and he couldn't help but beam, the corners of his mouth stretching wide, but then he heard it again. Marcus's smirk felt more potent now, his voice drumming into Michael's consciousness. "Is this really enough? This isn't your world?" Michael's heart sank briefly as frustration flickered within. Was he simply participating in a distraction from his responsibilities? A voice of discontent echoed within him. One too comfortable to dismiss. "Michael?" Sarah's gentle voice brought him back. "Are you really okay?" Her brows furrowed slightly, her concern palpable. The way she looked at him, the depth of her gaze, made him feel as though all his walls had crumbled. In that moment, he realized he admired more than just the connection they shared. She was a force of nature, her spirit was unrestrained, and the weight of the world that bore down on him seemed to lift, if only by inches. He hesitated, unsure if he should share the doubts that plagued him. "I'm just figuring things out." "Figure it out with us." A child chimed in, laughter burst once more around them, igniting sparks of camaraderie. Lost in those lively eyes, Michael felt hope weaving through him again. But lurking beneath was the undeniable truth of his tumultuous reality, like tendrils of smoke from a wildfire inching closer, threatening to engulf him, and then, the phone vibrated again, breaking the moment. He glanced down at the screen, heart pounding. Another notification: stock market crashes, board members resign. The joy around him shattered like glass as dread loomed over him. The distance between where he stood now and where he needed to be felt impossibly vast. "Hey, are you done with the tea?" someone asked, pulling him back momentarily. It was one of the kids, eager and innocent. "Almost." He forced a smile, not wanting to let go of the lightness, but anxiety clawed at him. Would he always be drawn back to chaos? Just then, Sarah's hand brushed against his. It was a simple touch, but it sent a jolt of recognition through him. She cared. She believed in him. "Focus on this," Sarah said softly, her words cutting through the noise. "You're with us now." With a nod, he took a deep breath, clenching his jaw against the storm of thoughts threatening to drown him. One moment at a time. He had to choose to be present, yet, deep down, he sensed a reckoning was approaching. The past, Marcus, the failed business dealings, they would eventually catch up with him. What happened next would either confirm his choices or unravel everything he had built. "Michael?" Sarah's voice grounded him again, and he could see the worry in her eyes. "I'm here, but is this all I am?" His heart raced. Before her reply could chase away his lingering doubt, the quiet vibrato of uncertainty loomed between them. He realized this battle was far from over. Maybe, buried somewhere in his tangled emotions, lay the answer he desperately sought. Would he find the courage to face it, or would he run back to the shadows, letting the storm swallow him whole? But it was too late to retreat now, the choice to stand had already lodged itself in his heart. The storm approached fast, and he could feel its power growing. What would come next? The waves were crashing, but the shore was still in sight. Would he ride them all the way to the other side? Michael's thoughts were a swirling tempest as he tried to shake off the weight of uncertainty. Forcing a smile, he turned back to the children, who were eagerly waiting. "All right, who wants to try pouring next?" The excitement in their eyes was infectious, and he felt a spark of normalcy amid the chaos. One by one, the kids took their turns, giggling as they occasionally splashed water or dropped a few tea leaves. With each laugh, Michael found himself loosening up a bit more. He watched Sarah, her hands gracefully guiding the children, her laughter a melody that danced around them. It was a sharp contrast to the noise in his head. "Look, my turn!" a little boy shouted, nearly tripping over his feet as he rushed forward. Michael couldn't help but chuckle at the child's enthusiasm. He was reminded of the little joys, the moments that made life colorful and bright. Just then, the door swung open, and the familiar sound of Marcus's booming voice echoed through the room. Well, well, if it isn't the Tea Party Brigade. I thought I'd find you wallowing in self-pity. Michael's heart raced. He forced himself to take a deep breath. Couldn't Marcus see how far he'd come? There was no need for this intrusion. But before he could respond, Sarah stepped forward, her stance unyielding. Marcus, she said sharply. These kids are trying something new. Why don't you join us? Michael felt a rush of gratitude for her. She wasn't just defending him, she was shining a light on their little world, daring Marcus to step into it. There was tension in the air as the children stared between the two adults, their innocent faces reflecting a mixture of confusion and curiosity. Marcus hesitated, clearly taken aback by the challenge in her voice. I don't think tea parties are my scene. His disdain dripped from the words, but Sarah wouldn't back down. Sometimes, it's the scene we least expect that opens us up to new perspectives. Besides, these kids have a lot to teach about joy and cheer. The children cheered, rallying behind her. A small part of Michael swelled with pride not only for Sarah but for the kids too. They represented a world that felt so distant yet so essential, a world where laughter mattered more than stock prices and empty accolades. Marcus's expression soured. You really think this changes anything? You think playing house with these kids will fill the void in your life, Michael? The challenge hung in the air, a gauntlet thrown at his feet. Michael's heart pounded. Was that the only reason he was here? To escape the pressures that haunted him? No, he replied, more firmly than he expected. It's not about filling a void. It's about finding what matters. The children cheered again, this time louder, their voices a united front against Marcus's scorn. It felt invigorating. In that moment, clarity surged through Michael like a tidal wave. See? Sarah smiled at him, the spark in her eyes reassuring. This is real. This is joy. Not the kind that comes from wealth but the kind built on connection. Marcus scoffed, but it didn't hit Michael like it used to. With Sarah at his side and the laughter of the children in his ears, he felt a newfound energy bubbling within, but just as he began to breathe a little easier, his phone buzzed again. It was a message from his financial advisor. Urgent, we need to discuss the fallout from the market crash ASAP. Tension coiled in his chest. His world was still unraveling at the seams, even as something beautiful began to bloom. He glanced at Sarah, who was still focused on the children, her light pushing back against the darkness of doubt. Michael? Her voice was soothing, a reminder of his resolve. You're here right now. Focus on that. But could he really stay, or was the impending storm too loud to ignore? The air felt thick with unanswered questions and an urgent need to act. With Marcus pacing behind him, doubt began to worm its way back in, just as it always had. If he didn't act quickly, would he lose everything again, or worse, lose this newfound joy he was discovering each day? Maybe it is time to choose, he thought, heart racing for what laid ahead. And as he looked into Sarah's unwavering gaze, he felt the storm within him stirring. Would he stand firm against the chaos, or would he be swept back into the life that nearly consumed him? There was power in choice, and right now, it felt like standing on the edge of something big. What would he decide? The room filled with the laughter of children, yet Michael felt the weight of his decision pressing down like a stone. As he looked into Sarah's encouraging eyes, he could sense the fragile balance between his two worlds, one filled with joy and connection, the other shadowed by business suits and financial crisis. Marcus's derisive chuckle broke the moment, reminding him of old battles fought in boardrooms, not tea rooms. "See mon, Michael. You really think any of this matters? A bunch of kids playing pretend one tea save you from reality." Michael didn't flinch. Instead, he gathered the courage that bubbled from within. "What matters is finding where I belong. These kids, they remind me that life is more than just numbers on a screen." "Interesting perspective," Marcus replied, rolling his eyes. But let us be honest. This one pay your bills. Maybe not, but it fills my spirit, he said softly, feeling a rush of warmth from the children's laughter. They were swirling around him, untainted by the adult world, each giggle a testament to the simplicity he'd lost. Can you really afford to lose yourself? Marcus's voice was low, almost conspiratorial. What if this whole finding yourself thing leads you nowhere? Fear prickled at the edge of Michael's thoughts. He could picture the fallout, the grim meetings, the numbers that could tip him into despair, the disappointment of his family. Yet, watching Sarah guide the kids, gently adjusting a spilled cup here or hugging a crying child there, he saw a path illuminated by compassion and grace. But look at them, he gestured to the children who were playfully arguing over a cookie. They're so alive. What's the point of success if it leaves me empty? Sarah stepped closer, and Michael felt her steadfastness prop him up. You have to trust yourself, Michael. You've been through a storm. Maybe now you can learn to navigate it your own way. Marcus, arms crossed, leaned back against the wall, but even he seemed to notice the change in the room. The kids were chaotic, their energy infectious, drowning out the weight of adult worries. As Michael felt his heart beat steadying, he clenched his phone tighter in his hand. I know I need to address my responsibilities, but this, he waved his other hand around the joyful chaos, this matters too. It matters to me. A pause hung between them, heavy with possibilities. You're naive, Marcus scowled. This is just a distraction. No, it's a choice, Michael countered. And right now, this joyful noise is the best thing I've experienced in months. With that, he looked at Sarah, whose eyes sparkled like sunshine breaking through clouds. The phone buzzed again, a harsh reminder of reality that jolted him. In that heartbeat, Michael faced a crossroads. Did he walk into the storm of his financial obligations, leaving behind the laughter and connection he yearned for? Or could he find a way to balance both worlds, carving out a life where he wasn't just surviving, but truly living? Michael? Sarah's voice was a soft anchor. You still with us? He glanced back at her, the soft concern etched in her features. She was the embodiment of everything he craved, someone who radiated warmth and understanding. Yeah, he said, his voice thicker than he expected. I'm here. But even as he spoke, doubt crept back in. What if he chose wrong? In that split second, the kids erupted into a new fit of giggles, spilling more tea than they poured, a beautiful mess that made Michael laugh. The innocence in their faces was a balm to his anxious heart. Sometimes, Sarah said, her voice gentle but firm, the right choice isn't about certainty. It's about courage. Could he muster that courage? As Michael prepared to voice his choice, the door swung open again. The chaos quieted, all eyes darting toward the entrance. A tall figure appeared, his business partner, Alex, with a look of urgency painted across his face. Michael, Alex said, breathless, we need to talk. It's about the company. The laughter in the room faded. The whimsical world of tea parties and innocence slipped away, replaced by the seriousness of adult obligations. The storm he feared was back. Would he abandon the joy he had rediscovered to face old demons? Or could he somehow bring a piece of this light with him into that world? The answer hung in the air, filled with the promise of change. Michael felt the room constrict around him, the laughter of the children replaced by the tension of the moment. Alex's presence loomed heavy with the gravity of old responsibilities. He could see the concern etched on Sarah's face, mirroring his own panic. Could he really leave this joy behind and return to the gray suit life that threatened to swallow him whole? Now? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady, though it quivered slightly. Can't this wait? Alex shook his head, urgency in his eyes. It can't. We're on the verge of losing everything. I need you back in the office. We're in crisis mode. The kids, vibrant and carefree, seemed oblivious to the burden sinking Michael deeper into his doubts. Their play continued, punctuated with laughter, yet it felt like a world away. In that moment, he was faced with an unyielding choice, one that felt stark and cold against the warmth he was just beginning to experience. That he looked at Sarah, desperation mingling with hope in his heart. Maybe I can handle both. I could try. It's not just about trying, Michael. You have to commit, she said softly, her tone urging. What weighs more for you right now? The noise of the world or the joy of these moments? His mind was a whirlwind. Images of boardroom meetings, tense conversations over the projection of numbers, and the fear of failure piled onto his chest like bricks. But then, so did the memory of laughter, the sweet innocence of a child's smile, and the community he was just beginning to embrace. What if he started, and the thought felt exhilarating but terrifying. What if I take a leave? Just to figure things out. Alex's frown deepened. You can't be serious. A leave will only delay the inevitable. Decisions need to be made now. Behind Alex, the children squealed again, and Michael caught a glimpse of one little girl offering a cookie to another who had fallen. A wave of warmth surged through him. This was what he wanted. Connection, compassion, real relationships. Michael. Sarah's voice pulled him from his reverie. You have to follow your heart. What do you want? It should have been an easy question, yet it felt massive, like a chasm he had to leap over. For a moment, he was enveloped in a fog of uncertainty. What did he even want anymore? Maybe I don't want to choose, Michael finally answered, his voice gaining a steadiness he didn't expect. Maybe there's a way I can blend these two worlds together. Alex rolled his eyes. It's not that simple, man. Reality doesn't allow for daydreaming. The children, unaware of the adult turmoil surrounding them, were lost in their games, oblivious to the weight of the world resting on Michael's shoulders. He took a deep breath, piecing together the scattered threads of what he wanted. I'm willing to try, he said, stronger this time. Maybe I can find a way to bring what I've learned here into the company. Alex's surprise was evident. You think you can waltz back in there and throw all your new feelings around like they matter? That's exactly it. Michael exclaimed, his passion rising. They do matter. They matter to me. I'm tired of spinning in circles, adding more numbers to an account when life's about more than that. The door creaked again, this time revealing another member of the team, Lisa, a thoughtful woman known for her keen insights. Sensing the atmosphere, she paused just inside the doorway. Am I interrupting? No, Michael shook his head, his heart racing, but I think it's time for change. Then we'll have to change. Lisa stepped forward, her gaze searching Michael's. But what does that mean for the company? Michael looked around the room once more. His chest opened a little, filled with the possibilities that lay ahead. It means I'm ready to be part of a new vision, one where success doesn't have to mean sacrificing happiness. A vision? Marcus piped in, skepticism thick in the air. Good luck with that. But Michael's resolve firmer now, he simply whispered, it's called courage. And for the first time, standing between his past and the uncertain future, Michael felt a flutter of hope. As the children's laughter echoed through him, he began to envision a path he could carve, one where both worlds could coexist. The question remained, could he truly merge the joy of innocence with the harsh realities of adulthood? He could feel the tension of that choice twist inside him, and as he looked at Sarah, their eyes locked in understanding, Michael knew the journey had only just begun. What awaited him as he stepped through that door into his dual life? Michael's heart raced as he stepped into the sunlight, leaving the chaotic swirl of emotions behind him. The world outside felt bright and alive, a stark contrast to the weight pressing down on him moments ago. He inhaled deeply, trying to clear his mind. This was a new beginning, a chance to redefine what success looked like. As he walked, he thought about all the responsibilities that awaited him back at the office. The deadlines, the meetings, the constant pressure to perform. Could he somehow reshape that environment into a place that valued happiness as much as profit? His thoughts were interrupted by a wave of laughter erupting from a nearby playground. Children raced amongst swings and slides, their pure joy radiating like beacons of hope. Michael paused, letting their energy wash over him. The idea of combining his new perspective with his professional life felt like diving into water too deep, but something within him screamed for this leap. Turning to Sarah, who had followed him outside, he shared his unfolding vision. What if I organized community events, team-building experiences that build on this connection? We could show how compassion fosters creativity. How people are happier when they feel valued. Sarah ached at his determination, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. That's a brilliant start. It could shift everything: how your company operates, even how the employees feel about each other. But it won't be easy. I know, he admitted, nervousness creeping through him. There'll be resistance. But if I can bring this spirit into the office, maybe we can change the culture slowly. Don't underestimate the power of small changes. They can lead to something major. She smiled, a soft touch of assurance wrapping around him like a warm hug. As they continued their discussion, Lisa appeared, catching up to them with an intrigued look. Did I hear you talking about community events? Yeah, Michael said, excitement bubbling in his chest. I want to bridge what I've found here with what we do at the firm. We can build connections that matter. Count me in, Lisa said quickly, her voice upbeat. I've always felt we could do more as a team. I'd like to help with that. With each word exchanged, Michael sensed their collective energy building. Sarah grinned, invigorated by the teamwork blossoming before her eyes. They were more than colleagues, they were becoming allies on this journey toward a better balance of work and life, but with each positive thought came doubt. What would the higher-ups think? Would Alex understand or dismiss them entirely? The thought made his stomach knot. Over the years, he had always played it safe, adhering to the established order. Any deviation had consequences. Michael, Sarah's voice probed, cutting through his turmoil. What's holding you back? You're fired up about this, and you have support. You don't have to stand alone. Taking a deep breath, Michael considered her words. The truth was, fear had gripped him tightly. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of stepping away from the familiar ground that felt more like quicksand. I guess I'm scared it won't work. Here's the thing, Lisa chimed in. If you don't try, you'll never know. Sometimes, the biggest risk is not taking one at all. Michael stared out toward the playground again, where laughter soared through the air. It was a reminder that joy and risk often walked hand in hand. If he didn't step up now, he might miss out on so much: on living his truth and on creating a workplace that didn't just count dollars, but also valued people. Okay, he said, newfound resolve surging within him. I'm in. All in. As they stood there, the weight of possibilities hung around them, electric. They were ready to embark on this journey not just for themselves, but for everyone intertwined in their lives. He could almost hear the laughter from that playground, echoing his ambition, urging him on. Yet, as excitement pulsed through him, another thought arose, creeping in like an unwelcome shadow. Would the boardroom truly embrace such change, or would they retaliate against this new order? He felt the uncertainty grow, a reminder that they were standing on the edge of transformation. With courage rallying inside him, Michael turned to his companions, ready to step into the unknown. But a lingering question gnawed at him. Would their vision be met with encouragement or one harsh dismissal? As Michael took a step forward into his dual world, the thrill of change curled around him, and he whispered to the universe, "Let us find out." Michael's heart soared as he walked away from the playground, determination fueling his steps. Each breath he took felt lighter, filled with the sunlight of new possibilities. He shared the vision with every word, and excitement filled the air between him and his friends. They had just taken the first step, but a long journey lay ahead. The trio decided to schedule a brainstorming session at the cafe down the street. It would be a casual space where ideas could flow freely, away from the rigidity of conference rooms and office walls. They laughed together, the tension melting as they shared coffee and pastries, envisioning a future where their workplace thrived on connection rather than competition. Let us write down everything we can think of, Sarah suggested, leaning forward, her eyes sparkling. Dream big. Michael's mind raced. What if they initiated weekly gatherings? Moments that drew the team together, allowing them to share not just projects or deadlines, but parts of themselves that had long been tucked away behind polished presentations. Team-building activities focused on empathy, perhaps a charity event where everyone could lend a hand. He pushed his fingers to the table, feeling the energy bouncing back. They scribbled their ideas on napkins, laughter punctuating their brainstorming session. The camaraderie was infectious. With each suggestion, Michael felt the doubts residing in him start to lift like mist in the morning sun. Sarah and Lisa had become more than colleagues, they were partners in this adventure, but just as a great wave lurches before crashing, doubt resurfaced. What if the team didn't buy into this? What if Alex, the board's leader, looked at their plans and saw them as foolish or naive? Michael pushed the thought away, breathing deeply again. Fear only had the power he gave it. Okay, we need to have a plan, he finally said, quieting the chaotic buzz of ideas swirling around. We'll present this to Alex, but we need a solid argument. We need to show him that valuing our people won't just improve morale, it will enhance productivity too. Studies show it works. Lisa's eyes widened. You're right, we can pull some stats. Make it bulletproof. As they gathered information and ideas, Michael felt a wave of hope swell within him. Maybe this wasn't just a whim. Maybe they could truly transform the workplace culture. The late afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows on the sidewalk as they made their way back, hearts aligned with purpose. Once inside the office, Michael's demeanor shifted slightly. The fluorescent lights flickered to life above him, a stark reminder of the old environment he wanted to change. He glanced at the closed doors of the conference room where Alex often held court. Would he recognize this new shift as something valuable or simply turn back to his spreadsheets and profits? They approached the conference room door together. The moment hung heavy in the air. Tensions coiled around Michael's stomach, reminding him of the bravery required. He had allies, but the uncertainty loomed. Just remember, Sarah said softly, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. Even if we face resistance, we're making a choice today. This matters. He nodded, steeling himself as he took a deep breath. With a soft determination, Michael pushed open the door. The boardroom greeted him with a mix of timidity and excitement. Would the vision they crafted together ignite the fire of change or be snuffed out before it could even begin? As the door clicked shut behind them, Michael felt the weight of the moment settle in. This was the beginning of their fight, not just for a new culture but for validation of their collective spirit. But before he could speak, Alex's icy blue gaze met his, and Michael couldn't help but wonder, would they be dismissed before they had a chance to share their hopes? With that hanging question, Michael launched into his pitch, his voice steady, heart racing with a mix of anticipation and fear, realizing that this moment would define more than just his career. Would their dream encounter acceptance or shut down before it breathed? Michael stood in the boardroom, his heart pounding. The air was thick with anticipation as he glanced at his allies, Sarah and Lisa, both nodding their encouragement. Thank you for gathering on such short notice, he began, holding Alex's gaze firmly. We have something important to share. Alex's expression was cool, but Michael could see curiosity flickering behind his eyes. Taking a deep breath, he launched into his vision. We believe our workplace needs to pivot, to embrace not just productivity, but connection and authenticity. We've seen how fostering genuine relationships brings out the best in people. It makes work life fulfilling. He paused, glancing around the room. A few board members were leaning in, intrigued. The familiar tension in his chest eased slightly. We want to create community events and team-building experiences inspired by what we've learned outside the corporate walls. This isn't about abandoning our responsibilities, it's about enhancing them. Happy employees lead to better results. As he spoke, Michael felt the weight of his former life, with its sleek suits and cold hierarchies, begin to slip away. Every word he shared wove tighter the threads of hope and change. We also have data to back this up, he continued, signaling to Lisa, who displayed charts detailing the proven correlation between employee satisfaction and productivity metrics. He saw nods of interest among the group, and his heart soared. This is not just an idea, it's a necessary shift. Alex shifted in his seat, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. So, you're telling me we can improve morale, and in the end, it'll benefit the bottom line? Exactly, Sarah interjected, her voice steady. We've witnessed the transformative power of community. People work harder when they feel valued, respected, and part of something greater. An older board member raised an eyebrow, skepticism thick in his voice. And you think our high-powered clients will appreciate this soft approach? Michael felt the challenge like a punch to the gut but met it without flinching. We're not advocating for a frivolous exchange, we're suggesting a more relatable human approach. Imagine a team that can collaborate passionately and creatively, not just check off tasks. I believe that would resonate with clients. Several murmurs rippled through the room. Sarah caught Michael's eye again, and he felt the warmth of her spirit spurring him on. It became clear, the battle wasn't just about facts and figures. It was about igniting a fire in everyone's hearts, a chance to reconnect. Alex's brow furrowed, his eyes scanning the room before settling back on Michael. And what if this doesn't pan out? Panic threatened to grip him again, but this time, he shook it off. Then we learn and adjust. But we know it's worth trying. Clinging to the old ways is what got us here, losing touch, becoming distant. The silence that followed was heavy, almost pregnant with possibility. Michael held his breath, waiting for the verdict. Let us vote on this, Alex finally said, a tinge of eagerness creeping into his voice. If we're going to take a risk, let us do it as a team. Hope flooded him, bright and fierce. As the board members raised their hands for approval, applause erupted in Michael's heart. He had taken the leap, and his team was ready to build something beautiful together. After the meeting, they stepped outside, laughter pouring out into the corridor, a stark contrast to the tension that had been moments before. We did it! Lisa shouted, eyes brilliant with joy. Michael turned to Sarah, who looked radiant, bursting with pride. You inspired me, he admitted, feeling gratitude overwhelm him. That was just the beginning, she replied, a teasing glint in her eye. But now, the heavy shadows of doubt had cleared. Michael felt lighter, ready to dive into the future as they transformed their environment together. As they began to talk about the next steps, brainstorming again, higher goals, there was a shift in Michael. He was stepping forward in life, not retreating from it. And for once, he wasn't just running toward what he wanted for himself. He was going to create a meaningful path for everyone around him. With each passing moment, the laughter of children echoed through his thoughts, reminding him that happiness isn't a distant dream, it's the vital bond they were cultivating. What a journey ahead! Sarah exclaimed, her smile infectious. Michael nodded, warmth flooding through him. I feel ready for anything. It was true. By embracing the full spectrum of his experiences and connecting them to his work, he was forging a new path, one intersecting with authenticity, connection, and joy. And standing there with his friends, dreaming big, he knew this wasn't the end of their story, but the beginning of a beautiful transformation. If you're feeling inspired, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button right now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see how transformation looks. Let us keep this momentum going together. Your voice matters. Comment below with your thoughts on the ending and how it moved you.